26 migrants stuck underneath a flatbed truck.
11 of those have been transported to the hospital for various heat-related and minor medical injuries.
And temperatures reaching well over 100.
But we can tell you definitively, we think everybody's out of the woods as far as losing their life. Thankfully, we think that with the help of our other stakeholders, we got them to the hospital quickly.
What happens next to the 7 coyotes, or human traffickers, that were arrested? And when does this case go from being a state case by the Bexar County Sheriff's Office in San Antonio to Homeland Security investigations and a federal case? Hi, friends. I'm Jami Virgen with another edition of Immigration Crisis, the fight for the southern border. If you have not been to Texas in the summer, let me tell you, it is hotter than anything you can imagine. It's extremely hot, and what makes it even more dangerous is the number of migrants that come in under the radar and pay a coyote or human trafficker to get them into the next major city so they can continue their journey to their final destination in the United States. That happened here in San Antonio during the last week of May. 26 migrants were found by the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. That is the county that mostly engulfs the city of San Antonio and other surrounding cities. San Antonio, of course, is the 7th largest city in the United States, and it is a major trafficking hub, not only for drugs, guns, and money, but also for human beings.
This morning we received information that there was a smuggling operation in effect, that several dozen people were being smuggled. What we knew is that it was the smuggling method was some sort of a long gooseneck trailer that was being utilized. So we were able to establish surveillance on it as it was moving this way. Our undercovers from our transnational group, from the organized crime unit, were able to get eyes on the trailer as it came into the location, being towed by a fifth wheel work truck and trailed by an SUV that we believe was going to be a decoy vehicle or a counter surveillance vehicle. They saw the vehicle pulling the trailer and the trail vehicle pull in here, and we had aircraft up giving us air support. We were able to verify that there were several people moving around the trailer, is what we were told. Well, what we were able to find out is that they used that time to unload the people from the trailer. So it's a gooseneck trailer, long with 2 corrugated pipes on it that are like culvert type pipes. That was the decoy load. Underneath is a large false compartment that these people were just laying down in there, exposed to the elements, basically laying on really hard mesh, and while they were transported here from the border. They reported being in that compartment for upwards of about 3 hours. Obviously, not much by way of water. So hence the medical emergencies, the heat-related injuries that we have. They were able to be brought into the house. Once we verified that there had been people in a trailer, the quick concern for us became, what's their medical condition like? So we actually went in under exigent circumstances to safeguard, make sure that nobody was in there was critically ill or even worse, dying. We went in and we secured the residence. Several people ran from the residence on foot. So right now, aside from the 26 victims that we have 7 suspects under arrest that were involved in the smuggling operation itself. So 26 and 7 total. I'm sorry, so my mistake. It's 26 total, 7 suspects. So of those 11, they've all been taken to area hospitals. The remaining 19, I believe, are going to be taken in for questioning. At present, we don't know who is going to be arrested, if they have any additional going to jail as a result of the operation itself. It's quite common for coyotes to pass themselves off as victims. So in other words, they'll blend in with the crowd of victims, and only until we start drawing the information out of them is then we're able to determine that this is not a victim, this is a bad guy. At present, the feds are here, HSI and Border Patrol are here, and they're going to be taking over the status of the victims. So at present, we just don't know who else may be going to jail.
The area where the people were caught is known to be an area that has a lot of illegal activity going on. We spoke exclusively with the sheriff, Javier Salazar, and asked him on what he was planning on doing to try and curb the illegal activity that's going on here, specifically the number of people who are trafficked in this area of town coming in from other border areas. Talk to us about Oak Island for the people that don't know this area.
Well, this is a very rural area of the county that, for the most part, it's a very peaceful area of the county. But with that being said, these folks prefer rural areas that are mainly quiet. To the untrained eye from the street, it looks just like another farmhouse, right? But inside, we believe there was something a lot more sinister going on. Obviously, people were being exposed to possible body injury, maybe even death. It does appear there was some evidence of animal fighting inside. One of the young ladies was absolutely in tears, and I flat out asked her if she was a victim of any sort of violent crime. She shook her head, and she told me in Spanish that she's just been through a lot. So I don't know what that means at this point, but I can tell you that it's heartbreaking for me to hear, because she's a young lady. And we know, you and I know, we've been doing this long enough, we know what these young ladies go through on the trip even to the southern border before they even cross. So to me, she had that 1,000-yard stare that I wouldn't be surprised that as this unwinds and we start finding out more and pulling information from her, that we find out that she's a victim of something much more, again, sinister.
Okay, this area is also very rural for the people that don't know where we're at. We're in the southern part of Bexar County. This area has also had a lot of 8-liners. We've done numerous stories over the years. What do you think is needed? Because it is rural. You can't have...
So here in the next few weeks, we're going to be presenting our budget to commissioners. Part of that budget is we're going to be asking for upwards of 60 new deputies, patrol deputies, but also some investigators, a commensurate number of supervisors to supervise all those assets. We just need more first responders out here. Human misery is occurring, and they're hiding in plain sight. They're hiding among the peaceful residents out here. And again, we just need more first responders and more resources to do this. Now, with that being said, last week or 2 weeks ago, we were working with Congressman Tony Gonzalez to apply for a federal grant for a jail-based intel center. A good portion of that, if we were able to get it, $2.6 million grant is going to be devoted to developing intel, utilizing the jail to operations just like this. So if we can get all of those things that we're asking for, I think that we're going to do a good job of presenting the need. These are not wants, these are needs, and we're going to be, presenting the need for that.
Okay, and the last question would be for the residents of this area, because we've been out here numerous times. People often tell us they don't want to call because everybody knows everybody. What would you say to them?
We would say give us a call. You can remain anonymous. You can call the non-emergency number, 210-335-6000. You can refuse to give your name and number. Say you don't want to be contacted, but just give us the information, and you can hang up and you won't have to deal with us ever again. You can also send us an email, bcsotips@bear.org. Again, be anonymous. You don't have to give us your name. We won't contact you again unless you want to be contacted. But we just want the information, and you can go on about your business, but we want to save lives.
All right. And the cockfighting that was going on down here, I know they had taken in about 200 roosters not too long ago. Is that related at all?
No, we don't believe that it is. But it looks like it's a possible remnants of a cockfighting operation inside. We don't have any animals out here to be certain, but it does look like that's what it was being used for.
So at what point does a case go from being a state human trafficking case to it being a federal case? As it was explained to us by the sheriff, it usually depends on whether it meets the threshold and also if the federal government believes that they can dismantle effectively this entire criminal organization if they go federal. We spoke exclusively with Craig Larrabee, the special agent in charge of Homeland Security investigations for the southern part of Texas. Let's talk about the smuggling, specifically the human smuggling, because that's a lot of what we're hearing. And it's cool weather right now, but the temperatures are going to start going back up. and what normally happens? How close of an eye do you guys keep on what is going on just south or just west of San Antonio?
It's one of our major programmatic areas here. We spend a lot of time on human smuggling. I have over 10 groups dedicated directly to human smuggling throughout my area. Again, my area covers the border from the valley all the way up to Del Rio, so we have many groups, but 10 groups dedicated directly to human smuggling. As the weather gets hot, obviously we're concerned about what happens there. Human smuggling organizations, a lot of people do understand how they work, but just to clarify, when an organization gets involved in human smuggling into the United States, the vast majority of those migrants are found south of the border. They contact the organization. They'll help them cross the river, and they're put into a stash house, usually along the border, whether it be in Laredo or down in Brownsville or wherever it may be. Now, they're brought into that stash house, kept there for several days until they can coordinate the next movement. Now, that usually means they'll be transported to another place, and more often than not, particularly over the past 5 to 10 years, they're placed into the back of tractor trailers. They use the tractor trailers to try to bring them from the border area up to a more urban area, like often here in San Antonio, for the next piece of that. So now that tractor will be brought to a location. They'll be given instructions where another pickup drivers will come to that location, several vehicles, and they'll pick up smaller groups of migrants and take them to the next part of the destination. Sure. The idea that humans are smuggled in tractors across the border, that's not really how it happens. In Texas, they're across the river, and then they're taken to stash houses. And they could be multiple stash houses. Even once they get to San Antonio, they may be taken to a stash house. And when I say stash house, it's a house that's usually in poor condition. The migrants are usually treated very poorly, but where they're staged for a period of time until the next part of that organization can move the migrants to the next spot. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different places where we have concerns, especially in the heat. In the back of a tractor trailer, obviously, we've seen how tragically that can occur when that happens. When they're crossing some of the ranches, crossing the river right from the very beginning, it's very dangerous. Crossing some of the ranches where they may get lost. They're not necessarily used to that area, and we see tragedies happen there as well.
Okay, let me ask you specific cases. I know. Let's start backwards with the Walmart one. With the number of people that were there. How and when do you guys get called in, and what do you do? What's your involvement in that case?
Well, in the 2017 case at Walmart, that was a response by local law enforcement, San Antonio Police Department, and obviously all the emergency medical staff that also that responded. We're notified of that at some point throughout the period of time, and then we come over and try to take the criminal investigation from that point over and try to tie it to as many people as possible. So to take down the organization that was responsible for that case. In that case, the driver, Mr. Bradley, he was sentenced to a life sentence for his role in that situation.
And he was the only one on that one?
No, there were a couple other arrests too. I don't have all the specifics.
That's okay. We can work around it.
Yeah.
Okay, how important is it for you guys to get every bit of information that may be on that truck? There were people that had passed away. They had cell phones, they had documents, they had papers. How important is it for you to get every single piece of evidence out of that truck that you can?
It's the most important thing for us to collect as much evidence at the time of that crime. Now, when you have a tractor trailer incident, you have a mass casualty event, it's very difficult because your primary mission for all law enforcement and emergency response is the protection and preservation of life. So that has to be the primary concern. So many people being taken to the hospital, that has to be the major concern. But also our secondary concern, which is really our primary mission, But as law enforcement, we still have that preservation of life mission, is to gather the evidence to ensure a successful prosecution, as many people that is involved in that organization as possible. And we have a lot of experience with this, not necessarily always in these mass casualty events, but as most of your audience is well aware, we have incidents like this that occur regularly when it comes to failures to yield in chases that occur throughout our area. Particularly we see a lot coming from the Eagle Pass and Del Rio area coming into the city, where there's recruitment of young people, sometimes just barely old enough to drive, sometimes not even old enough to drive, through social media and other things, where they're recruiting these kids to go pick up bodies, pick up migrants and transport them into San Antonio, maybe Houston, maybe Dallas. Now these kids are often, newer drivers, live in the city, whatever city that may be, and now they're asked to go out into the rural areas of Eagle Pass, Del Rio, all those different counties throughout that area, maybe on ranch roads, pick up migrants and take them into the city. They're also told in some cases, if you're approached by law enforcement, try to evade. Now, that's a recipe for disaster. They're not familiar with the area. They're inexperienced drivers to begin with, and now you're fleeing from law enforcement. And we've seen tragic accidents regularly where people are hurt, people are killed. Those are, for a period of time, we were going once a week on those situations. Throughout my AOR, I'm still sure we have at least one a month. And that's resulting in death. And those are human smuggling organizations that are treating those migrants just like a commodity. There's no care, and there's no care for the other people that they've recruited in to be part of that organization. A couple $1,000s they're paying potentially. Sometimes they pay more, sometimes they pay less. But, now you see the victimization of those migrants because of that particular situation, and also, you're bringing in young kids that have no business in that business.
The incident that happened down on the south side, the more recent one,
Yep.
hasn't been adjudicated, but
Yep.
how involved are you guys? And is this a bigger organization that you're able to go after?
Yes, we're the lead investigative agency on that. Again, as I said, we can't speak to a lot of specifics, but we're looking at the entire organization, working with our partners in not only state and federal, but also foreign partners to try to, dismantle that organization that was responsible for 53 people losing their lives.
You don't get used to that. You're
No.
the boss now,
Yeah.
but you used to be out on
Yeah.
the field.
Yeah.
How do you guys deal with your own people having to see that many people dead? Regardless of how much of a professional you are, you still have 53 bodies in front of you.
Absolutely, that's a big care of ours. It's not just our agents, but it's also the local police department that was there. It was the EMT folks, the paramedics, everybody that was there. So we do within HSI, we have a peer support program. It's very important, and I think most law enforcement, if they don't have it, they should be pursuing it. Where you have agents, officers, all different folks throughout our agency that have been trained in peer support roles. So we offer that right away. We'll do debriefings and make sure that our folks that have seen these at least know what resources are available, and having some frank discussions about what they saw. And it was devastating for these folks.
I know some people
Yeah.
have told me, I think it was actually one of the firefighters, that to this day they cannot smell certain spices
Yeah.
because of the spices
Yes.
that were in that car.
Yep.
The triggers.
Yep. Olfactory responses, they don't go away. And that's definitely something we've heard.
That's all for this week, friends. Thank you for joining us again for another edition of Immigration Crisis, the fight for the southern border. In San Antonio, Texas, for Sinclair Broadcasting, I'm Jami Virgen. Until next time.